Welcome. Today we are dancing with Pontus Petterson. We have known each other for 11 years now.
Oh, yes.
And
yeah.
we have danced together, we have drawn together, we have done a lot together. I feel enamored to be in your presence. But if people don't know who you are, what do you like to tell them?
I don't know. Okay, that's hard.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Oof. I like eggs and cats and water. And sometimes people refer to me as the cat choreographer. And sometimes Pontus has worked a lot with water. Or, poetry. So maybe that's what I do. Very simply said. I like to dance, and I think dancing is great. I have quite a broad interest and way how I work. So it's also like in between visual arts, dance and choreography, and also some curatorial work.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you got it all.
Oh yeah, great, amazing. Okay, cool.
But more importantly, what are we going to do today, cat choreographer?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to do my cat practice. And this is something that I started developing during my master's in choreography that I did together with you at Doc. And the cat practice is what it sounds like. It's practicing being cats, basically. And I've done it in different ways. I think when we did this study together, I was also a bit like doing it through like a cat rap, a cat manifest, different ways. And then the last years I've been doing it more as like quite an open invitation, somehow like as, let's be cats. But the cat can also be on two legs, and maybe more thinking on the logics of the cat or the mindset of the cat rather than trying to mimic it somehow. But then now the last year I've been also working a bit, going back to some more physiological aspects. So also thinking on like tonus of muscles and the maybe liquidness of cats sometimes, or how they turn their head, or the very like sometimes not giving a fuck about anything, kind of have like way of dealing with things. Different things.
So like when you say liquid, I think of how cats can kind of squeeze through very small gaps. When they fall, they have that like rotation thing to always land on their feet. There's the tonus or the vibe of the musculature of the cat. Okay, so we're gonna behave, spend time being a cat. I've done this so many times, but it's nice to re-enter it for like 10 minutes or so. Or?
Let's do 10 minutes. I think it's fine. I think probably we'll go quite quickly into it. Knowing you, and even though it was a long time since we did it together, even though we've done it a lot together some years ago or more.
And if people want to try it at home, it is good to do it a long time. Like
I think so. It helps. And I think what I try to also emphasize is that sometimes I think it almost as like concept or a virus, almost like you think about it as being a cat, and then somehow by doing it continuously starts becoming somehow. So I think that also puts it in perspective of doing it for a longer time, that also adds this kind of leaving another kind of logic, or adding another body, or shedding a new kind of skin into a different kind of being or something. And I think because it's also very involved with the space around it, I think it's also this kind of discovery of both a body that is moving, but also space that is there for you. But through this body, the space changes quite a lot, I would say. Or just different places you end up being in. That also adds, I think, to that kind of being both part of a space and particular in a space somehow.
Yeah, we're going to get into so much talking after anyway. So let's go and have a go.
Yeah.
We'll pause and we'll be back in a minute.
Yeah.
Great. So we're back. Like where to start?
I had a sexual moment with one of the beams on the wall.
You did.
Yeah.
But the tensality of your leg was really beautiful.
Do you know which one I mean? You were also in the corner.
Yeah. I do know that.
Yeah. You saw me. But it was also like the being quite like not really aroused, but still a bit aroused by the smell of this iron beam. That didn't smell a bit of iron, a bit of like dust, I guess, a bit earthy, but not.
Yeah.
Like nothing really spectacular. Just being like really just like this smell.
Yeah.
That's quite nice.
And the feeling in your leg, because that's what I meant. Like there was a quality in the musculature that felt very cat-like, but also very pleasurable, and it like made me want to like explore, like stretch, like that kind of cat sort of like for pleasure almost.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's such much the cat is such a pleasure. I have it in some of the scores that it's like a pleasure activist or something. Or like that it's like it just does whatever it feels like. Yeah. But in that there's also like so much of how to say welcoming also anyone else to do the same somehow, I feel. But also I think I think it really works on the kind of energy and release somehow. I think it taps into some kind of other things, other organization of our energy and desires, which makes us also just like kind of relaxed into the moment, very like it's such a present thing to be in. Like it's really and I think we talked about it a lot also when we've been doing it more, about this kind of being there in this moment, and the cat is very much about that somehow. About presence or being. And
but it's a very easy way of staying present.
Yeah, totally.
Like I think often when I'm dancing, like it can sometimes be a lot of work. I'm like, oh no, concentrate on this. But there's something about that there's so much to play with, I guess, in the behavior of the cat or in the perspective of the cat, that I can allow whatever draws my attention to be filtered through that somehow. I don't have to get lost in representation maybe, or get lost in like repercussions, or thinking of like, what does this mean in a different way.
Totally.
It's very meditative in a very radical way.
I would say so, totally. Because I think it's like constantly shifts focus, and through that, but because maybe it doesn't put so much, or it feels like it doesn't put so much like value in if I'm playing with the phone or if I'm just looking at something, it's like the same, but it's not. But there's not necessarily this is more than the other. So there's somehow like a very different kind of value, or it's not value maybe, or it is value, but it's a very different kind of that, at least I think, which makes it then how it engages with things very differently.
And it's amazing because it's almost like an aesthetic. Like we don't know what the cat's doing really. We know some things, but we don't know a lot. But there's an aesthetic quality that we can sort of gather those values as from, totally. Which are really supportive in a lot of ways. But this time, like, I think maybe I'm maturing as a performer. But like you say, it has been a while since we've done it. And I felt like this time I was allowing different energy tones to be facilitated. Like, I always remember you encouraging playing like with a ball or something. And I always found it a real reach for me as a performer to sort of understand that energy tone for a cat. If I'm like, that's how I'm thinking of it. But here, it became really accessible, and also like you say, like a similar level. Like it was okay to play with the thing, it was okay to hit you, it was okay to run, it was okay to jump off things, because they were somehow within the same logic of like just looking at the thing, or which was really powerful today.
I think play is, I think it is such a fundamental thing that we have, and I think there's just something that society tells us to stop doing, but I think the cat also allows that. So I think there's something there that is happening when this is invoked, or invoked, provoked, both maybe. But I think there's also something about animation or animating something that, like it starts to hit something and it wants to hit it again, and it kind of like makes it alive. So it's almost like it wants things to be alive by like moving it, and that becomes a game that is it me playing with the thing that is alive, or is it me making something alive, or is it, and that becomes like this kind of like almost like a small dance with a whatever kind of object. I don't know where it comes from, if it's more like, a cat playing with a bird, or I don't know, or if it's like
but I
provoking movement somehow.
And like you say, like the space becomes articulation of that, like desire for playfulness, or like for this things being alive, for trying to maybe capture aliveness, like to know when one sees it in a way.
That's an interesting aspect.
And definitely the thing of bringing the things to life is really apparent and supportive in some way.
I don't know, I had a moment when I was also going in under the theater, so being a bit more in darkness, and it's such a nice, like also like a pleasurable thing to like really be like to like really want to bathe in darkness somehow, which is not, I think it's nothing that we normally do, but I think through the cat, I think, or at least I don't do it personally as but I think it's really something quite pleasurable when you do it with the cat. Like there's a different kind of, you wake up other things in you somehow, which is really fun and exciting, but also pleasurable also, I think.
Again, for me, like it maybe manifests in the sense of the space becomes like, because I'm not like viewing it through like here's where we sit, this is where we dance. I'm like exploring the space not for what it is, but for what it is for a cat maybe. And like I found myself on top of some blankets or like cushions behind the stage, on top of the stage, and I don't think I've ever considered that as a place.
Totally.
And it's this like it's so exciting to find these like places where you can balance almost, or sit, or hide, or and that they become available for experience. It's so rewarding. And I wonder, like, because if it was an improvisation, I think we would be so intent on being exposing our dance in a way, like giving it. Whereas this allows that part of our dance can be hidden and bathed in darkness, as you call it.
Totally. But I think there's also something kind of what I'm also really, and maybe this is my work in general also, but there's something that has like such a, like, it's super concrete and super abstract. And there's something about that very much with the cat that I feel like what I'm busy with is also just the materiality and the different dimensions of soft and hard and levels of things, which is like also just a way to view whatever space.
Yeah.
But because I do that, it's kind of like, you know, when you have infrared goggles, what do you call it? Like
infrared.
Infrared. Sorry, well, it was a hard word in English. Infrared goggles. You know, when you see all of this like bodies moving in darkness, and then like you can see heat. You know, it's like that kind of thing, but it's just like you do it through space or texture or something. So it's just a different kind of tuning in, or like looking at it with this kind of eyes or something, I guess, or how to say. But I think it really makes it also then available. The space really changes, and it becomes a complete different kind of hierarchy, or how to say, like environment. Then the space becomes an environment also very much, I think, differently from a space that has like these tables and chairs, and we use it in this way, you know.
No, I'm often curious about, like, what are the qualities of dance, or like what qualities of dance does it provide that, say, gymnastics doesn't provide, or say weightlifting doesn't provide, or something. You know, like what access does it give? And I like that idea. I think you're touching on something really really interesting, like between the abstract and the concrete. That the cat is really this quite concrete, almost comical character to really be playing with, but in order to really reach those abstract sensorial materialities, which are in a way more real. However, we tend not to be able to talk about the tensality of an experience in the body, but we can talk about cats, which are almost like unknowable, to be honest, because we really don't experience them. However, our experiences are like distant. So somehow by combining these two impossible logics, the cat, which we talk about all the time, it's all over the internet, and then the dance, which we experience all the time but never talk about, you're sort of meeting in the middle and having this sort of fusion. I have to think of waves clashing, which is very
totally. I guess I don't know, I think it's just like it really works on many things, and it's such an easy way to access. And I think when you start doing it more, you can really go even deeper through energy, through like also integrity, all of these things that I find super interesting artistically and bodily, and what it means to a dance also very much, and to dancing.
I mean, and it's interesting to see it in your more sculptural work, I always find, because there it still feels like you're attending to that experiential nature of what it means to be in the world, but you're using these very concrete objects, and sometimes in abstract ways and sometimes in quite concrete ways, really, but facilitating somehow like an awareness or a coming closer to that. It's almost spiritual or religious in a way.
Totally. No, but a lot of the work I do tends to go there sometimes. But I think it's also, you know, like, that's a very long conversation, I think. But there's something definitely in accessing different parts of our bodies and our awareness. And sometimes that really becomes maybe other dimensional qualities, or it feels like it or something. Or because in some parts of this world we don't have words for it, we tend to think about it like that or something.
I know my relationship to you and the work around the cat has become like a little bit religious. There has been a sense of like using it as an archetype through which to reckon with my existence and my experience, especially through the identities I find myself as a dancer and a choreographer, like the freedom that is permitted in the practice and maybe between the concrete in the abstract, and that experiential permission and wandering as well, that is sort of like allowed. For me, it's a real sense of empowerment and finding legitimacy.
Yeah.
And I think I can imagine that's akin to a religious like experience where one finds a sort of empowerment, a recognition of this very complex and dynamic experience which we're having. The cat religion, if I could.
Yeah, maybe. Well, of course, because it's like, it's this thing that comes, I guess very contagious, and then like, I don't know, it's also very much an emblem, or like this kind of figure, or almost icon or something. But of course, you also have cats in many religions, and they're also the guardians for like the in different places to the afterworld and stuff like that. So I think you can they are very much like maybe they could lend us a hand in accessing those dimensions or feelings or thoughts but I also tend to think on the like whatever intellectual labor turns after a while into physical labor, or whatever physical labor turns into spiritual labor, I tend to want to think like that, at least with things. And maybe there's something there very much back then again to this kind of concrete and abstract, or like how the cats facilitates things that is super simple, but in that simplicity maybe there's other ways how we meet things.
I've always been struck in your work by how hard you work for something so light. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds hard, but yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it's that.
Like it's such a gift of an aesthetic and a performativity and a quality. I don't think I've ever watched the cat practice, because I've usually been in it, and but the bits I've seen in rehearsal and stuff, I think it is a light gift, and yet you work so hard for it. Like there's a clear drive to make sure that specific quality is accessible somehow, which is it's a really beautiful dedication. I'm not saying you work hard in a negative sense at all.
Yeah, but it's an interesting aspect that you're bringing forward. I think that I haven't thought so much about, but maybe it's this kind of because sometimes the work I do is so much about, in a way, not improvisation but still improvising, or like finding ways how to deal with things, and wanting to think around it, like around ethics and like how do we deal with whatever kind of choice making we need to do somehow. So I think there's that kind of like very strong sense of listening. I feel very important, and I think dance has those possibility, and the cat practice kind of has that also, in terms of also just like being very present, and through that being present you can make much clearer choices, but then you have to be very like listening into many different kinds of informations that is being sent, I guess. I don't know if it's about that or... And
just to go back to the dance, I mean, this is wonderful stuff. Like we're unpacking a lot of things. But today I managed to do that thing that I've seen cats do, where they it's almost massage a person's lap and stuff. And this was really special for me because, I like I said, like I've not gone to those places of empathy and connection before, and understood how the cat can relate to others in space and stuff. How was the massage for you?
Well, the massage, I think when they do that, what I understood, what they're doing is actually trying to get milk from the mother.
Oh, wow.
I think this is also the interesting thing about the cat and the human, is that there's so many things that the cat does that we read as such, and they are actually doing something else. So there's many of these things that it's just like lost in translation, basically. And also what I have understood from cats and the domestic cat that I'm referring to quite a lot is that it's also, that I am referring to, is that we're also infantilizing the cat by, and that's what's happening when we continuously like pet them. That's kind of like the tongue of the mother, and we give them food so they don't have to go hunt. They don't have to think about these things. So the meowing is also a cry for the mother or a call for the mother. They don't do that in the wild. So there's many of these things that happens that that is fun because we read it as something, but they're actually doing something else. Yeah. And many times it's this kind of very kind of fucked up relationship in a way, because they're like basically being kids. And we maybe also think they are cute. But there's something what I found enjoyable is this, this kind of like that you're just doing something with my body and I'm also fine with it. Yeah. It's not that there's something, and that's something I think that happens when you do this practice in, when I do it, it's very clear also there's a different kind of contract. And then there's a different kind of availability of how I made myself available to myself and to other bodies. If I would just be laying there and you would come massaging me or something, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? But here it's like, you're just doing that and you're just doing that. And it's like, yeah, fine. Yeah. And then if I wouldn't have been fine with it, I would just have moved. Yes. So there's ways how integrity plays in here, which I find super interesting. And I find it also very strongly, like my brother and my sister has kids. And it's so clearly, like when in upbringing what we think kids should do and not do, and what they should learn in terms of also what is okay with touch and what is okay with like being physical, like I think we know a lot more today that it's like, if kids don't want to hug, they shouldn't be hugged, for example. Absolutely. These kind of things. But I think it's very clear that kids also have integrity, and I think and it's something about it that we are also being so learned to not like. There's interesting things in terms of integrity or and how we relate bodily to each other. That is so we've been so conditioned in certain behaviors that it's read this and understood like that. And here I think there's a way how maybe one can start unpacking it a bit differently. Also like, my arm is just an arm, it's just flesh, at least in this moment. And and then because of that, my body is being made available for me also very differently than before. And I think this is I think it's interesting and can be quite beautiful when it is in this setting of really like a very confined space also, I think, and that's important. I think also when I do these practices, especially with cat, because it can really be kind of borderless also, it's kind of that one construct. It's very like BDSM, I guess, in that sense. There's a safe word, or in this work we have the possibility to go as far as we want because we have set up a certain kind of rules. And here I think it's not the practice or the method is not the same, but in the terms of how far one can stretch until one says no, has the similar kind of like length of things, or like how the body is also borderless in one way, or I don't know. It's tricky roads, but there's also interesting aspects there, I think, in terms of also what we think a body is, and how one thinks how much my body is mine, and how we think my body is mine. That I think here it can do things also other ways. I don't know. I
definitely think like you bring up contracts, and I think the contract that one can leave at any moment, it really facilitates a sense of autonomy and people taking care of their own autonomy. And also, I don't feel, I didn't approach you straight away and jump on you as if to massage you, even though maybe that contract could be built up within the dance as well. But definitely it's fascinating, you're right, the levels of power that exist and how autonomy can grow from that. And we do often also glorify the the sort of the child and childlike stage of life where we're told what to do and everything is facilitated for us and stuff, but to recognize like that's a certain power, and it can be as problematic as it can be liberating as well. And I think there's something it may be interesting in exactly the cat practice that allows us to experience those things for a bit within a confined container, like you say, like within this room for this period of time. We can test what it means to be infantilized a little bit.
Sure. It's also, of course, it goes close to, it can really goes into, like it's not cat play, but it could be cat play or whatever kind of play. Or maybe that's also part of the spiritual aspect to also, like to release yourself from certain kind of social things that you're supposed to do or not supposed to do and stuff. So for sure that is also, there's a spirituality in the sexual practices that we can maybe clearly talk about as a sexual practice, and those methods and like ways how we do it has maybe similarities here, I don't know. But in terms of also freeing yourself in terms of other words, or not having the words for it, but
Was there anything from today's dance that stuck out for you? Anything else, I guess?
I think because I'm quite busy with energy at the moment, and something that I really love about the cat practice is there's somehow like there's other ways how I access whatever energy like depot I have in me somehow. Like I can rest for 2 seconds and then I'm fine to play again, or I'm resting for 1 minute and then I'm fine. But it's a very different kind of how I manage my energy. And I think as dancers we know this, like, okay, I have 1 hour show, then I know how much energy I need to pull from me to be able to do that show somehow. So there's some kind of calculating body that is happening that I think we do as dancers. And here it's not that, but it's still organizing itself through like having more or less energy and like filling and taking out energy from whatever those sources are of energy. And this I find really exciting, because I really think that there's, because we eat 2 spoons of sugar, we get 2 hours of play, and then we need to add 3 carrots, and then we have 1.5 hours of like, maybe we have this kind of idea of like plus and minus energy, but there's that it's not that simple, I would say. And I think the cat can really makes us available for this other kind of momentum and other ways how we kind of surf on those energy levels. Which also I think it really in tunes me with what kind of state I am is this moment. So in terms of integrity and presence, it allows me to be am I very tired? Actually I have a lot of energy, so then I will just play with this phone or whatever button I find somewhere, or I'll just lay down. Or I'm cold, so I will lay next to another person because it's nice with warmth. Or I found a heater somewhere, I'll lay next to that. So because it's so desire driven, there's a different kind of other energy levels happening, I feel.
Or like dramaturgy almost.
Totally.
Yeah, it's managed, in a way really well. And I will definitely carry this energy with me as always. It's always a pleasure. And if people want to get in touch with your energy, it was like a cheesy segue.
Yeah, totally. We're great.
So, but how do people? I mean, you're everywhere. But if people want to find more specifically what you're up to.
I think one can always go into my homepage. So my name is ocean.com. And there you also find like links to my Instagram, and I also have a newsletter that comes out like 2 or 3 times a year.
You have a calendar as well?
But that was just for a moment.
Okay, sorry.
Maybe it's still there, but it's not it's nothing in it. But I try to do some stuff that is more outreaching. But I think the newsletter is great. And you will find that on the homepage you find like newsletter link or something. And then on Instagram, my name is Pucus there, but that's kind of a mix of private and public and whatever. It's not.
And also, in that one, it's not my name is Pucus. It's Pucus.
Yeah.
Whereas actually for the website, it is my name is Ocean.
Exactly. Yeah. So those would be the ways.
I will also write it in the below so people can find it there.
Super.
And tomorrow you have a show at MDT.
Yes.
That people can come and see.
Exactly.
And not only tomorrow, it's a few days.
Yeah, from the 7th to the 10th of December, I have a performance of the third part of a trilogy called Måpa. So this one is called Måpa, The Last Stand, and in brackets, Sky, which is the third part. It's a group piece. So it's me and 5 other people dancing on stage. So it's Sybrig Dokter, Malmborg, Seid, Tahir, Escarleth, Romo, Pozo, Utke Acs, and then me dancing, and then also Hara Alonso making music, and Jonatan Winbo making the lights.
Yeah, so they can catch that at MDT.
Yeah, exactly.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
But I'm sure however people come in contact with your work, they will hopefully be super as gifted as I feel I have been to be with you and your work. So thank you so much. Thank you for doing this. And
thank you. Been lovely catching up on the cat. I feel there's so many ways how we've been sharing this practice. So it's really beautiful to remember all of those really strong insights you have on it also.
Yes.
So
I mean, it's all you. And just to have the conversation again. Wow.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah.